one of the most infamous and controversial bands in the world. W.A.S.P, the 40th Never Stops World Tour with special guest, Armored Saint. W.A.S.P live. Go to waspnation.com for tour details and tickets. W.A.S.P, feel the sting.
Welcome. I bid you welcome. This is Johnny Metal, John Clauser, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world, and to my right on the screen, my left on, I don't know how this is looking. I don't even know anymore. These things get so silly, I just can't imagine. But anyway, he's my fellow Shadow Man, my fellow Stone Cold Killer, my fellow co-captain on this journey we call W.A.S.P Wednesday. John, the Music Nut, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm the Rubber Man
Woo.
who uses Rubbermaid.
I was going to say something with Rubber Man. I was going to say something about Rubber Man, but I thought, I think I'll stick with the other two instead.
I am the Rubber Man. I use Lock and Locks and Rubbermaid.
There you go.
Rubbermaid has that burp, which you don't get with Lock and Locks.
That's true. That is very true. That's
oh
yes. But I think the Rubber Man that Blackie's talking about on this little gem here, Dying for the World, that's a little bit of a different scenario, I have a feeling. So I think we'll get into that a little bit later. But
that's right.
So yes, as I mentioned, we're talking about Dying for the World. This would be their 10th studio album, released on June 11, 2002. Now, the 11 is a little bit of a that's gonna play a role here, and as we talk more about this. But here again, this came out on Metal Is Records again, the subsidiary of Sanctuary. Not much again to talk about with the charts. Only got to number 72 on the German charts. So one thing, it didn't seem like we didn't get a whole lot of room to breathe with Unholy Terror. And all of a sudden, boom, we have another banger of an album in Dying for the World. So with that in mind, John, the Music Nut, let's hear your take on Dying for the World.
Thank you so much, John. Wow.
Yep.
Just to let y'all know, in case you don't know by now, if you've been following the series, I don't know if John and I talked about this. I knew their catalog through KFD when John approached me about doing this series. I didn't own Still Not Black enough for KFD, but I did know the albums. From here, I'm getting into this stuff just recently. I listen to this and I want to just keep coming back to this over and over and over again.
Tell me about it.
And we talked highly about Unholy Terror, and it deserved all the accolades we gave it. This is another level. And again, all respect to that album. The band hit it out of the park here. And this album deserves a lot more love than it gets. It's not like it was critically acclaimed, but this sound was kind of out of vogue by 2002. But this is definitely one you got to, if you gave up on W.A.S.P, you got to revisit this one, or you got to check this out for the first time, because I'll tell you what, Dying for the World, holy smokes. Lyrically, musically, fantastic. On this album, you have Blackie wrote all the songs. He's playing guitar, keyboards, all lead vocals, and he produces this as well. Excellent production job here, no question. Mike Duda, still with the band today, on bass and vocals. Frankie Banali on drums, bringing his magic again. And Daryl Roberts plays lead guitar in here and does a great job. Some of these solos are among the best that have ever been in the W.A.S.P catalog. And I'll get into that a little bit. Shadow Man is the opener. And we're going to go deeper into this, as John alluded. But Blackie wrote this album after the events that happened on September 11, 2001. And it really lit a fire in him. And a lot of the songs are about this, but they're so well written. Could it really be about this? We know that it is. If you read the liner notes, you'll know. But Shadow Man, riveting, killer opener. Very strong. My Wicked Heart takes the tempo up a notch. They always seem to do a second song that the first song brings you in, and the second one just ups the intensity. And that's what My Wicked Heart does here. It does have that little bit of, and I think Blackie does this purposely on these albums. Love Machine was such a banger as the second song on the debut, and he tries to bring that feeling into his albums on that second track. He does it again here. Blackbone Torso, that's a slow, eerie intro. Blackie's vocal is more tender here. The guitars in the background work very well, really adding to the feel. And it goes right into Hell for Eternity, which sounds like a call to arms. It has a joyous feel about it, but the lyrics are not talking about anything joyous. Fantastic song. Daryl Roberts' solo, one of many that's great on here. This one really jumps out at you. And speaking of great solos, Hallowed Ground. I think this is one of the best solos that any lead guitarist has ever done in W.A.S.P. What a fantastic track. This is the ballad of the album, more or less. I mean, musically, it would be considered a ballad. This is a wonderful song. To me, this is probably the best track amongst a bunch of great ones. Hallowed Ground is fantastic. The ride out on here, and it's a long ride out. I could listen to this ride out for another 2 minutes. It's so wonderful. Amazing song. Amazing vocal by Blackie here. Great performance. The band's they're playing for the song here. They're holding back. Frankie Banali's like ringing it in here. His drums on here, as always, fantastic. He plays for the song. He's done a lot of session work. You know, all the work he's done with W.A.S.P and Quiet Riot in the past, and a lot of the other bands he played with before that. But wonderful track. Revengeance kicks butt. It's awesome. Not a biblical references on this one. Oh, gosh. Excellent. Trail of Tears is very cerebral. This is about the oppression of Native Americans. Blackie Lawless is a Native American, which he talks about during his live shows. I know he talked about it on the last tour when I saw them at Penn Peak, Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. Blackie's vocal on here is fantastic. Wonderful track. Stone Cold Killers. Now from here, as great as the vocals, as great as the songs are, like I was saying, they're kind of cryptic. This is when they really start getting brutally angry at what was going on. And you're really starting to see how Blackie feels about what happened before this album was recorded. Brutal lyrics here. Excellent performance by the band. He wants to take down Superman. You could feel it here. Wonderful song. Rubber Man, again, really heavy, scathing lyrics. Great song. There's not a dud. There is not an average track here. It all works seamlessly. I mean, this may become my favorite W.A.S.P album over time. It's not right now. But wow, what I've heard so far, and I've listened to this maybe about 7 times.
Yeah.
Whew. The last track is an acoustic version of Hallowed Ground. Now, there's no drums here. The lead guitar of Daryl Roberts doesn't come in till about 3 minutes in. He plays that wonderful solo again, like he played on the electric track here, which is track 5. It's acoustic. The guitars, the keyboards are only there to add color, but they add the perfect amount of color. I'm not usually into bringing a song back on an album. I talked about that with El Dorado. Here it works.
Yeah.
Here it brings closure to the album. Whereas on El Dorado, I think it was just they kind of ran out of ideas at the end. Here it works perfect as a closer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so so in honor of the late great Nolan Johannes from WNEP, the news station, I'm going to give this a 9.
9, yes.
9, because you'd always stress the 9, not 8, 7, 8, 9, right? So I'm going to give this a 9, and this may become a 9.5 or 10 over time.
Over time, yes.
Oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
oh my gosh, knocked it out of the park. And I'll tell you what, 9, I gave the debut a 9. If I were to rank these albums now, I might put this over the debut, even though the debut has the songs that are more memorable at this point. And that album didn't have any duds either. But ooh,
yeah.
Dying for the World, W.A.S.P, 2002. Band bringing it here.
Yes.
Don't pay attention to what the record sales or anything like that. This is a fantastic heavy metal album. Wonderfully written, wonderfully recorded, impeccably played.
Yes.
Highly recommend this album. There you go.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. So, one thing that you mentioned here is it got glowing reviews. One thing I want to talk about before I get into my thing, and I'm going to tie into something else. One thing I read when I was reading a lot of the reviews, everybody's saying musically, okay, maybe it doesn't take on new ground for the diehard 80s W.A.S.P fans. And that's really not a bad thing, as this one review goes. But they kind of like, they skirt away from talking about the lyrical issues. It's like they don't really want to put it out there. It's like they don't want to delve too deep into the lyrics. They don't want to talk about Blackie's opinions or any of those kind of things. I'm like, well, sometimes, Blackie likes to say, think for yourself. Don't solely rely on everybody else's opinions. Especially with history or with the Bible or anything like that, read into it, study it, and think for yourself, and then go from there and build your opinions from there. So for me, knowing that this album is a very heavy 9/11 remembrance, tribute, war cry, if you will. John, talk to me about 9/11. Where were you on 9/11?
I was working for Sally Mae.
Okay.
They're now called Navient. It was a student loan servicer, and they were sponsored by the U.S. government, and later on they became a private company. At the time, I bounced around the company. I was there 17 years. I left there in 2008. At that time, I was working in a department called Financial Reconciliation. Across from me at my desk was my friend Wayne. Wayne is a musical juggernaut. He's also an excellent guitar player. He was listening to the radio while I was just working, and I don't remember what I was listening to. Maybe I didn't even have headphones on at that point. But he said, "Oh my God, the Pentagon got bombed." And I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm like, holy smokes, right? So, and right before that, he talked about a plane going into the Twin Towers, and it didn't really hit me. But when he said the Pentagon, then it hit me. So at the time, I was seeing a woman in the department. Her name's Lynn. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Wayne. And we walked back to the cafeteria, and there were TVs in the cafeteria. And they're all at CNN on, and we were watching it going on, and it was just stone cold silence. And we were just shocked. Our managers were trying to get us to go back to work. We couldn't work. We had to stay that day. And so they said, if you need to leave, leave. And some people had friends who were close by or family members. They ran out, hysterical as you would expect. We finished out the day, got in touch with my family, and it was just, I remember there was no cars on the road. Everything was just, it was like the world had stopped. It was, I'll never forget that time. I mean, but at the same time, any little bullshit that was going on between any of us, friends, family, acquaintances, that was all ground to a halt. We were all thinking about each other at that point.
Yeah.
At that point, I think I was renting apartment number 2 at that point. I was living maybe 3 miles from work. The Sally Mae was in the Hanover Industrial Park in Hanover Township, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my feelings. I mean, we were all just in utter shock. I mean, my father was still with us, my grandma was still with us. But we all had the same feeling. I mean, it's a feeling I'll never forget. We all had our flags out immediately. I mean, that's all I could say. I mean, it's just a feeling. I mean, a lot of people say that about, generation before us talked about, where were you when President Kennedy was assassinated? That's what, not the bombing of the Twin Towers was what it was for the next generation.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what I was going through at the time.
Yeah, for me, I was working in Maryland. I was still living in Maryland at the time. And the company I was working for, I was doing delivery stuff for them. So I was in a panel van, and that just only had an AM radio. Nothing fancy, just a strict AM radio. And so I was listening to some news talk station from Baltimore, because I couldn't really get much of anything else, but I could pick this station up pretty clear. And I could appreciate most of their viewpoints and stuff like that. So so the one commentator made this comment about, we're getting this report about a plane hitting the World Trade Center. Oh, that must be just maybe a crop duster that just got carried away or something. But we're about to go to a break here, so we'll be right back. So they allude to it thinking it's just a something joke. Well, when they got back on the air, it was no joke.
Right.
They suddenly realized, oh no, that's what had happened. What they realized the depth of what happened. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I was actually on my way to one of my last stops of the day. It was a good friend of mine. She's passed away now. But I got on the phone I got to her house and where her shop was, and I called home to my wife, and I'm like, what are you doing right about now? And she says, oh, I'm just watching Golden Girls. And I was, why? Yeah, turn Fox or CNN. I said, yeah, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And then, just about then, I think that was when the news about the Pentagon had just broke, and everything that was going on. And from there, I just rushed back home, and we were just in awe. We was just like, you got to be kidding me. Because in Salisbury, Maryland, we're only about an hour south of Dover. So you got the Dover Air Force Base. So that That could have been a target, actually. Washington's only about 3 hours or so away from Salisbury. So you have that connection. Granted, PA's a little, or Twin Towers are a little further up, but we still had some pretty significant areas close to us that, until they finally grounded everything, that after that plane went down in Pennsylvania, that was the end of anything, anything horrible or horrifying happening like that. But we just had to find a resolve within ourselves just to keep going. And you just try to understand, but you're never going to. At the same time, I didn't want to feel that I didn't quite feel as angry as Blackie did. For those of you who maybe don't read the liner notes, let me just kind of share a little story he says in this thing. So W.A.S.P were on tour in America in August and September of 2000 and 2001. He was in Manhattan on August 31st. Now, keep in mind, Blackie grew up in New York City. Okay. He says that from his apartment, he could look out and he could see the Statue of Liberty. And, the further out you go, the one thing you could see is the Twin Towers. I was in Manhattan to do a day of press interviews prior to a show in New Jersey later that evening. And as I was leaving Manhattan en route to the show, I looked over to the skyline of the city. Leaving that place always made me sad. The further away you get from the city, the only thing you could see were the World Trade Centers, as they were the tallest buildings there. And I said to myself, take a good look. It's going to be a while before you see them again. Little did I know. So you get that pain of what happens at September 11th. Being a New Yorker that's close to his heart, this hits him like a ton of bricks times 11 or 12 or however what number you want to go up to, infinity for all he might know. As you get into these songs, you can tell there is a lot of this takes, in my opinion, this takes the lyrical content of what he was doing in Headless Children, and he combined this with the vitriol and the anger and the brutality of KFD, but still keeping it that W.A.S.P sound. But you can tell the anger here was not directed at a woman. This was directed at a certain group of extremists, I guess you could say.
Yes.
And, so when you get into Shadow Man with that kind of that God of Thunder like riff, you got that echo and reverb playing on that thing that just makes it even more slithery sounding. Ooh, and then Blackie's just chilling vocals through this thing with that. Again, he has a lot of different vocal effects on this record, and this one certainly has it. Again, you get these Shadow Man where you're basically saying, where's the God that made you? Oh, you're Superman. Going down forever to Neverland. Oh, where's the God you pray to? Forsaken again. It's never heaven. No, the Shadow Man. Yeah, this is talking to those extremists who took those planes and flew them into the World Trade Center, who flew them into the Pentagon, who thank God to the people who said, let's roll, instead of wherever they were heading to in Pennsylvania, drove it into the ground. And I don't remember where that one was originally scheduled to head to, but anyway, that was to those people. So, okay, you think you're going to get your 72 virgins or whatever it is that they think they were going to get in their afterlife. Well, that's not what I have a feeling. This is not what you're going to see. My Wicked Heart, this one, and I'm not going to apologize if I sound preachy with this one. To me, this song sounds like a man who has got such, as he says, a wicked heart. Can I still be? He looks to God and said, "Can I still be saved? can my wicked heart still be saved? Can it still be changed? You know, I believe God can do anything. I have no doubt in that. But it's the person with that heart. What are they willing to do if they want that change? And if they want God to work in their lives, and how they go from there. So that's how I view my wicked heart. Black bone torso. I get the feeling on this one from the liner notes again. Cyanide, a suicide, no thoughts of pain. Genocide, a crucified martyr, laid down to dust where they're to fade away. All geeks and circus freaks, come play with me. Pimps to bring my sex fiends. Molesting me round to the lust of my debauchery. Destined here to reign supreme, your bloodied king dying for the world. Here's a reference, in my opinion. He's making another reference to the whole Catholic priest debacle, where you were getting all these accusations of priests and molesting children, which is a terrible thing. I do not want to ever downplay that. That is never okay, and never okay. But here, these are people called to watch a flock over people for preaching the word of God, and they are turning their back to their and they're giving into their lusts, these awful sinful lusts that these have. So to me, your bloody king, that's a reference, in my opinion, to Jesus. So he's dying for the world, the perfect sacrifice, in my opinion here. Oh death, where is thy sting? Of course, that's a verse out of Corinthians 15. My black bone torso is bleeding me. I mean, this is that blackened soul that no matter how much you're trying to be a good person, you still have these awful thoughts, and what you do with them is just, it's never okay. Never, never, never okay. Hell for Eternity with its 1-2 FU. Oh yeah. Okay. Now we're getting the battle cry. We are getting this battle cry as he would describe in this, as they would play metal with the armed forces were playing metal, and that they could hear him from 2 miles or so away. Well, let's give you a fresh batch of songs to kill people to, is basically what this album is, how Blackie describes this album. And Hell for Eternity, to me, is another one of those songs. Again, man, in your face, just a ripping great track here. I cannot speak enough for Daryl Roberts, by the way. Oh, I almost kind of think his playing kind of was what showed up on Unholy Terror sometimes.
Yeah.
What we think is Chris, because Chris always says he feels he never played a note on that thing. Where Daryl Roberts might not get credited, and Roy Z does on a couple songs. I still think Daryl Roberts had, because there's a lot of tone that's kind of the same here. But here again, this is like a battle cry to the armed forces saying, okay, boys, send them to hell for eternity, because that's what they deserve after what they did on our soil. Hallowed Ground. Beautiful track. I think this actually made the round on a couple of those early shows on the 40th anniversary tour. I think our buddy David Alzapar got to see this. I think. I can't remember. I'm not sure. That was on an early set, I think. But it didn't make it past the second or third show or so. But again, this is his tribute to 9/11, to Ground Zero. Now, I didn't go to. I've only been to Ground Zero once, and that was in 2007. And so there was a lot of work already done, but so I never got to see what that really looked like so soon after. And he says that's a humbling thing to have witnessed. Even in 2007, that was a very humbling thing to experience, to be there, to see. And I can just imagine just now with the big monument and the memorials that they have there, what that's got to feel like, and what kind of experiences go through your mind. But a beautiful track, a beautiful solo. Again, Daryl Roberts, amazing job. I agree with you. This one ranks right up there with tracks we will probably be talking about later on. You know, certainly with the Idol right up there, but then there's other tracks that we'll get into on later albums that they employ these long outro solos kind of thing. Revengeance, one of my favorite tracks on this album. Oh, again, yes, you have a lot of biblical references with Cain and Abel, but here again, this is a song playing to the bombers, you know, the suicide bombers and all these people who wanted to do these atrocities, you know, thinking that they're going to meet their God and their whatever gifts they're going to get, when really, yeah, that's not where that's not where they're happening. Revengeance, snarling riff, snarling everything. Again, the vocals here just, ooh, love the song. Love the song. Trail of Tears. You feel Blackie's empathy and his pain as a Native American as he sings about this, almost prayer like at times. And again, just I'm not going to go into the Trail of Tears again. A horrible atrocity in American history, you know. And again, it's not right. It's not right what we did to them. But a beautiful song nonetheless here. And again, just an offering, a prayer offering almost, you know. Stone Cold Killers, you know, here again, my God, big G, will kill your God, little G. Enough said. That's all I got to say about that. Rubber Man, again, I think this one alludes to, I believe this also alludes to the Catholic priest thing, and you know, anybody who gets into the, you know, molesting of children and stuff like that. I don't need to delve too much into that. Again, great track, a snarling riff and rhythm. I love that word snarling for some reason today. That's my word for this album is snarling. But again, deep track, great. You could have ended the album there, but instead you get the acoustic version here of Hollowed Ground. I mean, not probably even more beautiful than the electric version, in my opinion. Some may say they found it boring. No, I don't think so. When you realize the topic he's singing about is important to him, and it should be important to us as Americans, because that we cannot let that ever be forgotten in our history. So again, this is definitely, as much as I love Crimson Idol, as much as I love that debut, as much as I love Headless, this is, I don't know if I can put this one above those just yet, but boy, it's close. It's definitely going to be above like Last Command and Electric Circus for sure. This definitely has probably jumped into top 5 the more I've been listening to this again. So with that said, I'm going to throw it back to you, John, and let me hear some rebuttals or any other fun factoids in regards to this lovely piece of music.
You give us a 9 then?
Yes, I easily give this a 9.
Okay. I don't really have any I can't add anything else. I mean, I think you put this perfectly. As far as the lyrics go and the things that Blackie was singing about, this is a serious album, and it had to be this is an album that had to be written.
Yes.
For what had happened, and Blackie took this on, and what a statement. I mean, this is just a excellent album. It's something that I'm going to revisit again and think about what was going on at that time too. I mean, I will never leave us. So it's oh gosh, yeah. Again, he's not just Blackie, Lawless, W.A.S.P. They're not just Blind in Texas, not just I Want to Be Somebody, not just Animal. There's Deaf.
Yes.
There's so much depth here. And this is pretty still easy to find. I mean, you can go on. I mean, I'm not a big advocate of Amazon, but you could find it there for $12. It's still easy CD to find. A lot of their CDs, some that we're going to talk about soon, are a little harder to find, but this one still, it definitely worth checking out. definitely worth the purchase if you want to get back into Wasp. If you stopped after Headless Children or even after the first 3 albums, definitely check this one out.
Right.
This is a great album, and you know, you want to say maybe some of the ideas musically are recycled, maybe a little bit, but this is his sound. This is Wasp. They're not going to go and change completely. They got to stay true to who they are.
Right.
They got to stay true to their foundation musically.
Yep.
And but again, well played, excellent songs, excellent lyrics, great performances, strong production. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, I can't say I have no rebuttal to anything that you said, John. And there was no tour for this album, just to let y'all know that they finished out the dates for the Unholy Terror tour in 01. So this, when 9/11 happened, W.A.S.P were still on tour promoting Unholy Terror. They finished the tour on October 7, 2001. They didn't go back out again until April of 2004. So 2.5 years between tours here. But Blackie was very busy writing, very prolific during this period. And they would go back out April 2004 for the Neon God albums, which we'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
That's all I got for this one.
Cool. All right. Well, let me finish off with the Wasp Nation and what they thought of this album. Just some really quick thoughts here. Terry Hallis, Dying for the World, gets a thumbs up from me. Hallowed Ground, Trail of Tears, love it. Martin Altenstein, I had hoped for some songs from these two, for some tunes from both these albums on the current tour. Saw them in 2001, and they played Let It Roar on that tour. Killer track. Of course, I think that's they're going back to they're going back to Unholy Terror. Let's see. Yeah. Chris Casper, Unholy Terror and Dying for the World, 2 underrated gems. Blackie's vocals on a whole nother level on these albums. Brian Sherman says, love the first 2 tracks, but then it peters out a bit for me. The mix is too dense and mastering too hot. I don't know about that. To me, in my headphones, I thought everything's. If anything, everything. It just sounded more in your face, So I get, but I can kind of see it, I guess.
Yes.
Taro Pesu, one of the strongest albums in the last 30 years of the band. I only rank Crimson Island Still Not Black Enough higher than from the albums between 90s and today. He meant Dying for the World. I thought about Dying for the World. Sorry. For him, he puts Dying for the World at his number 3 favorite album. Let's see. Felix Hedrick, also one of my favorites. Dalla Roberts' guitar work is absolutely brilliant. David Hobbs, love this album. In fact, I love everything W.A.S.P has done until the last 3 albums. So I'll leave it at that because I don't want to go too much further into that. Right. Mikhail Skorsky, sorry if I'm butchering your name, Michael. I apologize. Very good album. He throws up the horns. Jody Sargent, Own It, and I love it. So so there's some wonderful thoughts there from the W.A.S.P Nation, all seeming to love these albums. I do gather that maybe a lot of them have been kind of off the rails at this point with the W.A.S.P train, just kind of riding on the early stuff, but there are still those diehard fans. And some of these guys, when they comment on these and they give me some really good material here, I know that these guys are the true diehard fans, and these are the guys that I'm like, yes, that's who I'm looking for.
That's right.
That being said, today we were dying for the world, as it were, but then we're going to start looking in. If y'all thought Crimson Idol was a pretty intense little story, well, Blackie's going to get a little more intense. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if intense is the right word, but when a story goes to 2 albums, it obviously has to be something that weighs hard on his head. So we will be covering the Neon God albums in the next 2 weeks. And so we are going to be looking forward to that. Let me see. Let me ask this, John the Music. Now, where else can we be finding you at this point? What else is down the pike that we can find you on?
Oh, thank you, John. Well, John and I are on a lot of other channels. Just to let you know that we met on the Contrarians about a year ago, and we do a variety of shows. John and I were just part of a show that just dropped yesterday on the Bicycle Legs channel, where we
Yes.
talk about this, and we're gonna do a second part on this. We were part of a fantastic panel on the Bicycle Legs channel. Daniel is a fantastic channel going on. He's a great guy too.
Yeah, he is.
He is awesome. We did our three favorite cover songs,
Hmm.
and that dropped yesterday. So definitely check that out, because I mean, we go all over the gummit musically here. I mean, we grew up on metal, John and I, but we're into a lot of other stuff too. John, as a matter of fact, why don't you tell our viewers who you went to see last night? That's right, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss.
Great show. If Robert Plant and Alison Krauss come to your neck of the woods, I don't care if you don't think it's metal. It's still Robert Plant, for God's sakes.
Yes,
You're not going to see Zeppelin ever get back together, but you can still say you saw at least somebody from Zeppelin. If you've never seen anybody, Robert's the only one that's really out there doing any tours of any kind. And him doing Americana stuff, man, is just the bomb. Absolutely perfect for where he is in his life. Could not recommend it much higher. So yes, very, very, very good. If he comes into your area, go see it.
absolutely. And just to let y'all know, any of you who are northeast part of the United States, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss will be playing July 1st at in Bethel, New York. That's an outdoor venue where the original Woodstock was. So
Oh,
that's a Saturday night, and
ooh.
JD McPherson will be opening that show, just like he opened the show last night.
Mm-hmm.
JD McPherson has some great stuff too. I mean, I've seen him before. I saw him open for Jason Isbell in the 400 unit a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so if you're
And
into that,
JD's also playing in the Robert and Allison band as well.
oh nice. I had no idea. Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
I didn't realize it either until my wife said something about it. So yeah, he's actually playing in the playing band as well. So he's pulling double duty. So
Sweet. That is awesome. But yeah, I mean, like I've said, we're on a bunch of channels. I mean, if you like to see some of the stuff I'm doing, I've been doing some shows on Grant's Rock Warehouse. As a matter of fact, before this drops on Wednesday, I'll be doing a show on Monday night. We're going to do a show about the Georgia Satellites catalog. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Thursday, the next two shows I'm going to be recording, but they will be aired later. I'm doing a show with Daniel from Bicycle Legs, and we're going to rank the albums for the band Tears for Fears.
ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And wow, I'm still wrestling in my head. I mean, I know what my top two are, but everything else is going to be hard. And then on Saturday, I will be filming a show with our wonderful friend Peter Kerr. And on Rock Daydream Nation, where John has check out John's show appearances on there, particularly the rock and roll postcard show, I believe it's called.
Yep.
They are bringing it on there, and as a matter of fact, they just introduced me to a band called Hotel, and I just bought the album, which I'll be getting soon. And but anyway, what I'll be doing on there with Peter is we're going to talk about rock bands that did disco, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Ooh,
So
okay.
so that's what I'll be
All
filming
right.
this week, and then I'll be I'll be back on John's wonderful channel, My Music Corner, where we will continue our W.A.S.P series for the next several weeks. And
Yes,
so, if you'd like to see any of us, we're out there. I
we're
mean,
out there.
we're certainly out there. We love doing this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as anything else that I have been that you could see me on, as he mentioned, talking about the band Hotel, which is that was a Birmingham, Alabama band, very legendary in this area. So more of a Toto, Hall and Oates, Steely Dan kind of sound. So not really your metal sound, but still a solid band nonetheless. So I really, if you guys want something really cool to check out, go search them out. I've got a couple series, little mini series I've been doing on my own, of my own channel here that talks, I try not to get preachy on here, but I do talk about my faith a lot on these other series. I have a series I call Transform Tuesday. I do another one where I talked about a Christian parody band all through the month of April, and that episode concludes the day we record this. So so I do a lot of that kind of thing as well. I was supposed to do something with Grants Rock Warehouse, doing an April wine show, and unfortunately I got my dates mixed up, so I didn't get to do the live albums show. I've been doing everything else with them, but I missed the live albums show, unfortunately. But we are going to be finishing that series with a ranking later in May. And that's pretty much it. I'm not really I'm not doing too much else after that. The North and South Rock and Metal connection's been kind of here, there, and everywhere, so we've not been able to get back together. But anyway, but that's just kind of where you can find us. I'll try to link all the channels, or at least mention them in the description here, so you can click on those folks. Check out all these wonderful channels that all of them have been very supportive of me for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I'm very thankful for that. And and it's always a blast to do stuff with them. So with that being said, to my fellow Shadow Man, my fellow Stone Cold Killer, my fellow native on the Trail of Tears, John Clouser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner, where next week we'll be talking about some Neon God. We will see you soon.
See y'all.